Hey everybody, Coffee with Karen. Click. I forgot to call you bedheads. Good morning, bedheads. How you doing today? It's been a while since we've had a coffee with Karen, and I'm feeling like a spiritual sleuth today. We've got a lot to talk about. So I hope you got your bedheads on, even though you're not seeing this till like 3 p.m. Central, but whatever. I still recorded it in the morning. So I hope you're doing well today. We are going to be taking a look today, besides a few other things I want to talk about, but we're going to be taking a look today at what, you know me, I do like to look at the big picture of things. And when I learn something new on YouTube, usually, I saw this video I actually saw two videos recently on one, the collapse of empires, okay, and how the United States right now is lining up with that same pattern. Then I also saw another video from historians on how there's an 80-year pattern that's always going on, and the 80-year pattern intersects at some point. And what happens is during that 80-year pattern is old structures break down and new structures are formed. And what's really interesting about that video, I will link both the videos in the description below. What's really interesting about that video is that 2025 is the intersection of the old systems breaking down and the new systems being built. And in that video, I thought it was quite positive. I thought it was way more optimistic than the collapse cycle that we're going to talk about, because it talked about AI, clean energy, and there was one other thing that's not sticking in my head, but they were very positive in terms of CRISPR, I think CRISPR technology. Oh, biotechnology. Yeah, I talked about CRISPR. So I thought that was really interesting. In fact, in the video, he actually showed how CRISPR technology is they are taking cells from cows and literally growing steak, like not fake steak, like legit steak from these cells. And I thought, well, as a carnivore, that's very, very interesting to me. One, to not have to be butchering or what they call harvesting, which I think is, let's just call it what it is, right? That's what they call it harvesting cattle. So CRISPR technology is really, really interesting. I want to learn more about it. So anyways, we're going to take a look. I wrote a report working with AI, Mabel, who I call Mabel, and she ran a report for me looking at 4 different cycles, okay, of things that we've been learning, we've been talking about on the channel. So she's put a report together on the collapse cycle, the one video I just mentioned, the 80-year rhythm cycle, which she's calling the renewal cycle. Then a couple weeks ago, I did a video called The Great Rewiring, which was extremely helpful for me. It was another one of these big picture videos to kind of understand when this all started with what we're experiencing today, which was 2008. If you missed that video, I'll go ahead at the end of this one and I'll link it right here. Okay. So, because that one was, that we're going to tie in the Great Rewiring from that video, but I'm not going into detail about it, obviously, because I already did that. Okay. But it's going to tie that in. We're also going to tie in the golden future that we have read in the Spirit Circle. Diana Cooper wrote this book called The Golden Future. And I asked Mabel to tie in her philosophy of where we're going with the golden future. And what's really interesting is all 4 of these paths basically are saying the same thing, and then there's some astrology built into this as well. Okay. And then, as always, not only are we going to talk about what these things are and why it's happening, but what we can do about it. Okay. Because I really want to leave myself and you some things to think about that are not set in fear. It's set in understanding and, in some having some control over how things are going, because I know it feels so chaotic. So it's like, well, what are the things that we could be doing to support these system changes? Okay. All right. So we're going to be going over that. Okay. But before I get started, I wanted everyone to know that we are about to, probably 2 or 3 weeks in the Spirit Circle, we are going to start this book. So, How to Read the Akashic Records. I will link it below if you want to support our channel by buying it through our link. It won't cost you any more money, but we do get a little bit of a commission. But this is I'm so excited to read this because I don't know very much about the Akashic Records. We are just finishing up in the Spirit Circle, The Wonder of Unicorns. And, there's been a part of this book where I'm like, it's okay. But you know what, to be honest, as I'm getting through it now, there's a section I do want to talk about later on this week, the power of unicorn crystals. And there's a way that we can help this, all this stuff that I'm going to be talking about today. We can help this by calling in our unicorn energy into crystals and then placing them on pictures or maps or something like that. So I'm not going to go in that today, but I will go into that on the public channel, because I think the more of us who do that, the more we can support these system changes that are happening. Okay, so we're going to do that as a tool, but just know we're finishing this up. If you join the Spirit Circle, you can always go through the entire book club of all the ones that we've done. We did a series on shadow work. We did the Golden Future. We did this one. Now we're going to do the Akashic Records. I think there was another one in there. But you'll always have access to that. So you don't have to go through stuff live if you don't want to, or you'll always have things to be reviewing in there. Okay, so let's get started. This is very, very interesting. All right. So again, I read this like a little story. So something massive has been building since 2008. I think for me, the reason this is helpful is because it just feels chaotic over the last, since Trump basically got into office in 2016. Things feel way more chaotic and way more chaotic this year than ever before. But what's helpful for me to understand is that this really started in 2008, if not even before then. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. But only recently has it started showing up everywhere. Politics, money, technology, even how we talk to each other. For many, it feels like the world is breaking down. But what if this isn't the end? What if it's the rewiring of everything we thought was stable? Okay. History shows that about every 70 to 80 years, major empires and civilizations hit a breaking point. Systems built for one era stop working for the next. It kind of makes sense to me. It's like, generations were so different, generation after generation. I think we're better off accepting that. We're better off looking at the value of what each generation brings rather than fighting like they should be like us or fighting against it, right? So fighting against the flow, because that's evolution. And from a spiritual standpoint, we want to evolve, right? We believe in evolution. We believe in the evolution of our spirits, right? The growth of our spirit. It's not easy, is it? That's why we're on Earth. That's why we're here. So, but I love having these conversations because it's helping me. One, I need to see the big picture of stuff, so it's really helpful. We're going to get into some detail for our sensors in the group who need more of the detail. but it just helps me put things in perspective so that I can live my current life, the day-to-day stuff, with a little bit more peace, okay? So I hope that's doing that for you as well. All right, so let's see. So systems built for one era stop working for the next. That makes sense. The last time this happened was the 1940s, the Great Depression, World War II, and the birth of the modern American age. So every 70 to 80 years. Before that, it was the Civil War. Before that, it was the American Revolution. Now we are looking at the United States, obviously, okay, through this. But I have a feeling the same kind of cycles happen wherever you're living. If you're living in a different country, then you could you could literally take my transcript right here and ask your AI to to give you a report on Australia or Scotland or wherever you're living and see what the patterns are there as well. My guess is it's not just the United States, that it is a 70 to 80 year cycle for all of us. We're just happen to be talking about the United States right now. The rhythm known as America's 80-year renewal cycle marks 2025 as the intersection point. 2025, that's the year we're in. Isn't that crazy? So between the old world falling apart and the new one taking shape. And this is the first time in our lifetimes, unless you are over 80, or let's just say over 70, but you were young. So you didn't, you experienced your parents experiencing it. So however that affected your life. But for most of us, we are experiencing this transition from the old world falling apart to the new world taking shape for the first time in our lives. So that is really important to understand, right? So that we can keep it in perspective, basically. So astrology backs this up. Pluto's return to its natal U.S. position symbolizes the end of a long empire cycle and the beginning of something freer, more innovative, and community-centered. So at least the astrology is saying to us right now in 2025 that we have something to really look forward to. It's not like it may be in the last 80-year cycle, the 2040s. Well, I guess depending on where we were from an evolutionary standpoint, the words were probably positive then too. We were coming out of these old cycles. I think coming out of old cycles, going into new ones, is probably generally positive. It just feels so chaotic when it's breaking down, right? The old stuff is breaking down. So I love that we're beginning, it's the beginning of something freer, more innovative, which we have to be careful not to be so afraid of the innovation, because I know there's a lot of people who are concerned about the energy that AI is taking up. But if we have clean energy going forward in CRISPR technology, which is more biotech, but we will find a way to support the energy needed for this technology. I have faith that we will do that. But in the meantime, you can't just be like, no, because first of all, this ship has sailed. Sorry, you might as well just get on board with it, but then support how we're going to utilize AI without the energy suck that it's happening at this very moment. So that doesn't mean that we can't use it going forward in a very positive way, but we as society need to figure out how to do it better. And that's okay. That doesn't mean we don't, ignore it like where it's at right now. Okay. Or we don't not use it, but we have to find a way to do it better. Okay. Okay, so from this perspective, 4 overlapping paths are visible. And these are the 4 that I talked about earlier that we're going to talk about. We have the collapse cycle, so the fall of the empire. Again, that was a video I watched. It's not very positive. That one left me feeling like, well, okay, what do you do? So I mean, you can watch it, but It didn't leave me feeling very positive, which is why I grabbed the transcript and I plugged it into this report to help me see where this is going. Okay, so it's the fall of the empire following the same 7-stage pattern that destroyed Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union. We are in the people who are reporting on this say we're in, it's a 7-stage pattern, and the US is at stage 5, which means he says in the report, it's a male who's talking through it, that once you hit stage 5, there's no going back, according to how these other Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union have collapsed. Okay. I'm starting to realize that the word collapse is obviously not very positive, but it doesn't need to be negative. So I think we'll find a different word than collapse. Okay. Path 2 is the renewal cycle, the repeating 80-year rhythm where every American generation faces a crisis that forces transformation. Now, that video is very helpful and very interesting, so make sure you watch that one, okay, for sure. Path number 3 is the rebuild, the Great Rewiring. That's the video that I did based on, I pulled together some transcripts from that too. And we talked about that, the Great Rewiring. It's the generational transition. So it kind of goes over the different generations from top-down power to decentralized cooperative systems. So that's where the new alpha is taking us, which is beautiful. Our youngest generation right now is going to be taking us from top-down power to decentralized cooperative systems. But those in baby boomers and the Gen X are going to be guiding them with their wisdom. Okay. So we have a really positive place to go. And then we have the golden future, which Diana Cooper has channeled from the other side. The long-term awakening predicted by Diana Cooper, the golden future, where humanity shifts from control to consciousness. Okay. All right, so when it started, the current cycle began with the 2008 financial crash, not with any single politician. The event cracked open faith in the old economic story that if you worked hard and played by the rules, the system would reward you. And that's what the boomers had. They had that. That was what they lived through. If you worked hard, you played by the rules, the system rewarded you. And that's what they were taught. Okay. So I think the Gen Xers and even now the next generations are realizing that that is no longer working, right? Every disruption since Occupy Wall Street, meme politics, meme politics, M-E-M-E, the rise of influencers. So anybody can do something like this, on YouTube or on TikTok or Instagram. Digital currencies and polarization is part of the same chain reaction. All of that came from that 2008 financial crash. By 2025, the pressure can no longer be hidden. What started as cracks now looks like an earthquake, and that's what we're feeling. We are feeling the earthquake right now, right? Okay, so key insights from this is we've been in the collapse for 16 years. 16 years, get your head wrapped around that. 2025 is when it becomes visible to everyone. Okay, so this has been going on for 16 years, if not even a little longer, because it was going on prior to the collapse. Obviously, the collapse was the final straw. So it's been going on prior to that. It's just now becoming visible to all of us, right? And so it feels way more chaotic. So who's driving the change? Each generation carries a specific task in the Great Rewiring. And this is what I talked about in this video. I pop up here at the end of this one, okay? Boomers built the institutions now under stress, and their institutions then were way better than the institutions they had prior to that. So we can't be like, oh, the boomers suck, they shouldn't have built it this way. Yeah, they should have, because it was way better than what they had before. Gen X holds the bridge, raised analog, living digital, our steadiness anchors the shift. I don't like that first part, but our steadiness anchors the shift. So us Gen Xers, we were kind of steady. At least we kind of just like, hunkered in for the 40-year career, and then the next generation, the millennials, they became, and I worked in higher ed. So there was this point where we even were talking about the millennials and the Gen Zers, how they became the transition. What do we call them? I can't remember what we called them, but they were just always moving. Like they only stayed in jobs every 5 years. We were like, what the heck? Like I stayed in the same college for 23 years until they finally kicked me out because of low budgets. So that's a whole story. I think I did a video on that, but so yeah, so the Gen Xers, we were the steady anchors. Okay. So millennials built the online systems, apps, social networks, and AI now. Gen Z uses these tools as leverage to challenge corruption and redesign what's next. What's really interesting about this is that I am really into watching some of the YouTubers, Candace Owens, which I know some of you had a problem with, but when it comes to Charlie Kirk and the story behind Charlie Kirk's assassination, I'm really interested in watching her. And who's this other Ian? What's his name? Ian Carroll, I think it is. Yeah, these guys they are like Charlie Kirk sleuths, man. It's awesome. I mean, it's way better than watching anything like on Netflix right now. It's just these guys are uncovering, and they're Gen Zers, they are using the tools to challenge what happened to him, and they are not going to be letting this go. It's actually quite fascinating. It's quite fascinating. I just watched a video last night, which caught my husband's attention too. He hasn't been watching it, but Charlie Kirk's Ian Carroll did a video on Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, the chief of staff. His name was Mickey somebody. Anyways, what he did when Charlie was assassinated, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's so obvious this guy had something to do with it, allegedly and entertainment purposes only. But if what they're showing on that video, I'll link the video below for you. I better take a note or I'll forget. I mean, it's nuts. If that video is real, what he's showing, like nobody doctored it, literally his chief of staff was standing next to Charlie when he got shot. Okay. Charlie gets shot. He hasn't even hit the ground yet. And people are like freaking out, right? His chief of staff turns around, puts a phone to his ear. First, his phone was down here. Puts a phone to his ear, never even dialed anything, so somebody was on the phone. Puts the phone to his ear, turns around and walks out. His chief of staff. If that had people around are like, and if that had just happened, would you just your chief of staff? If you were a chief of staff of somebody, would you just turn around and he didn't run away. He walked away. And then they show him later on in the parking lot on the phone. They were pulling Charlie into the car and he's over in the corner, like on the phone. It's like, anyways, these guys they're doing a good job. So yeah, Gen Z is using the tools as leverage to challenge corruption and redesign what's next. All right, so we got to let these guys do their job. It's just fascinating to watch them do it. Gen Alpha, which I just recently learned is the new generation, the 2010 to 2025, will grow up inside the rebuilt world where cooperation and transparency are normal. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. They're going to have, that generation is dealing with the stress that their parents are going through right now because of the collapse, basically. So we have to be careful as parents and grandparents to help them through that. So as we feel it, right, we feel that collapse, we got to help them through because they feel it, they know it, they see it, they don't understand it necessarily. But remember, little kids pick up on all this kind of stuff, right? So we have to be careful that we're not, so they don't have basically PTSD because of what we're going through with the collapse. Okay, so the big aha moment studying this was realizing, so studying all of these things, is realizing that 2008 wasn't just an economic crash, it was the spark of a decades-long rewiring process. Each generation's strength to build on the last. This isn't chaos, it's continuity. All right, so the key insight here, generations are not fighting. They're handing off the baton in a relay that rebuilds the future. We have been rebuilding since the beginning of time. It's just that rebuilds are going much faster now. But we're also calibrating. Our vibrations are calibrating to meet the challenge. Doesn't always feel like it, right? That's why we have to take such good care of ourselves. So, because, if we were dealing with what we're dealing with today, 30, 40 years ago, we would not be able to handle what we're doing today because our vibrations have to keep recalibrating. And we're doing that. We're definitely doing that. And that has a lot to do with the golden future too, of where we're going to the 5D. So what's actually collapsing? I like this. What's dying isn't America. It's the empire model. Okay, so it's okay. We're okay. We are okay. We are okay as a people, right? It's the empire model. And it's probably not just America. It's going to be around the world. And that's good. We don't need the empire model anymore. The empire model was built on global dominance, infinite growth, and debt-based stability. Debt-based stability. It's not working anymore. It just doesn't work. Institutions are reacting by doubling down on fear and division, the last tools of a fading system. So that's where a lot of other spiritual folks have been saying for the last 10 months. Actually, Diana Cooper has been saying it. If you watch her, it's just, get your cup of coffee out, get your tea out, and, get your bowl of popcorn out and watch things unfold. Watch them unfold. And this is really good. We don't want all that anymore. We don't need global dominance and infinite growth and I need this and I need that and debt-based stability. That's not even stable. Debt is not stable. So misinformation, propaganda, and outrage media signal exhaustion, not strength. All right? The fusing of politics, money, and religion is the classic end stage of an empire. So that's why that one video with the collapse of empires, like it's happened in Spain, Britain, and the Soviet Union, they did the exactly same things that are happening now. Okay, so this is not new pattern. All right, so let's see. The key insight, the noise isn't power, it's panic disguised, it's panic disguised as confidence. So you have to trust that what's going on in the White House right now is pure panic. Like, I don't envy those people. I don't envy them because they're playing a role. They're playing a role in this whole collapse, and they just happen to be the ones that are at the forefront of it, Okay, the fork in the road. We have 4 paths. We've got the collapse, the fall of the empire, all right, which we've already discussed. We've got the 80-year rebuilding cycle. Let me see if there's anything new here. So the key insight here, this is a different one, is renewal is not optional. It's the rhythm of American evolution. Okay, so just keeping in mind, there's just so many things going on that we can't get we can't control, basically. We can't, get our little grubby hands on to try to control it, which is why I really like having these conversations, because it just helps, again, it helps me. I hope it's helping you to just kind of relax through these things. It doesn't mean we don't have a role to play, but we also can get on living our lives as all this stuff is happening because we can't control that. Okay. Let's see. And we had the Great Rewiring. So rebuild happens quietly at first. Then all at once, when people realize they no longer need permission to cooperate. That's what's happening. You have to admit, do you admit that you are so much stronger than you were 10 months ago, thanks to the Trump administration? No, it's not really thanks to them. It's thanks to the astrology. It's thanks to evolution. This is how we evolve, right? They just happen to be in that position to play that role. Okay, sucks for them. It does suck for them, but they took that on. They took that on in their life plans, you know? And if you think of it that way, you almost can't even be angry at them, you know? I don't know. You tell me. I mean, one of the pendulum messages yesterday was Trump's an asshole. So, the spirit guides. Pretty funny. Okay, let's see. Then we have the golden future, of course, which was the fourth pass. So as described by Diana Cooper, the golden future emerges between 2040 and 2055. By then, humanity learns to use technology and spirituality together. In fact, I just bought a book on the spirituality of AI. Who was it written by? I'll post it below. He's a huge spiritual person. I just can't think of his name off the top of my head right now. And so I haven't gotten into reading it yet, but I'm sure I'll bring some things here once I get into reading it. So AI assists creativity. Transparency becomes normal. It's definitely helping me to figure out, helping me see connections and even bringing that to you guys, right? So we can have these conversations. And honesty replaces manipulation. So that will be the golden future. It's beautiful. Communities are self-sustaining. Global firms act as accountable public utilities. Global firms will be acting as accountable public utilities. I can't get my head wrapped around that. And truth is instantly verifiable. AI is going to help that, you guys. I've already heard somebody talking about that eventually, not far in the future, that when you're watching media, they'll be AI will be confirming, are they lying? So that'll be amazing. They won't be able to lie, Plus, Diana Cooper also talks about our auras. We'll all be able to see our auras by the golden future. And you won't be able to lie then either, because you'll be able, if right now, some of you might have actually see my aura. And you can tell, am I being authentic? Am I not being authentic? What's going on? And you'll be able to know who you can trust, because we'll be able to see everybody's auras. We just won't be able to get, there won't be any reason to lie anymore, right? So people will value contribution and cooperation over wealth and control. All right, so we're ending that part of this whole cycle. The golden future isn't fantasy. It's what humanity builds once fear and hierarchy lose power. But we have to live through that. We have to live through it. It's kind of amazing that we are kind of going through it. We've all decided to be here at this time. Our role in the transition. So our role in the transition, we are the bridge generation, translating wisdom. So the boomers, the Gen Xers, the millennials, okay, because we've got the younger folks, that we are the bridge generation, translating wisdom from the old world into tools for the new one. So we have to help shape the AI and how it's going to affect, the environment. But that doesn't mean we don't do it. It doesn't mean we run from it. It doesn't mean we fight against it. But we have to make sure it works for us in a way that's sustainable. Our job, I love this, our job isn't to save the empire. We've been trying to save it for the last 10 months, I think. Our job isn't to save the empire. It's to build stability, dignity, and alternatives where we live. The empire has not been working for many, many people. It worked for more people than it did the prior 80 years, but it hasn't been working for a lot of people. So we want to get to a point where it's working for everybody. So our job, I could even leave us here with this conversation. Our job is not to save the empire. It's to rebuild it. Okay? Simplify, less debt, less dependence on things, more connection. Support credit unions, local farms, renewable energy, independent press. Model calm skepticism, not denial, not panic. Mentor young generations, offer wisdom, not control. Not I'm the only one who knows how to think about this, right? Our generation knows better. No. That's not true. Because where we're going, evolving, we don't know better. We have some things we can pull from. We've got the wisdom, but we don't need to control where it's going. Let them take it where they need to take it. So, the emotional reframe. You haven't missed anything. You're arriving right on time. Confusion isn't failure. It's what awakening feels like at first. The chaos we see is detox, not destruction. I love that. I'm going through a little detox because I had too many carbs last week, and I'm going back to low carb, and I'm going through a little detox. What we put in our bodies is the same thing of, you have to, if you're going to put crap in your body, you're going to have to detox it. If you're going to support crap in a system, at some point it has to detox. All right. So we're detoxing. Fear is the echo of the old system. Calm participation is the sound of the new one being born. Isn't that beautiful? So key insights, 2008 to 2030, that's only 5 years from now, is the teardown. This is why we have to keep talking about this, because I don't think we're done. It doesn't matter what happens to Trump at this point. We're not done. We're not done with the teardown. We've got another 5 years to go. Okay. So we need to be together to support each other through it and support our younger generations through it. 2030 to 2050 is the rebuild. So how fun is that? How fun is that? I hope I'm around to see some of the rebuild. What follows is not darkness, it's the dawn. Isn't that great? So that is what I got out of pulling those 4 transcripts together, my video, the rewiring, those 2 about history, and then asking about the golden future. We get this, okay? So the big picture takeaways. History repeats until we evolve. History repeats until we evolve. Astrology confirms the energy is shifting from control to collaboration. I love it. The collapse is not punishment, it's correction. Renewal is the pattern. Rebuild is the plan. Awakening is the purpose. The golden future depends on how calmly and consciously we participate. All right, I hope this was helpful for you. I do have a list of 30 questions that we could ask the SGs. I will probably do that next in a separate video and probably run that tomorrow. Okay? And we'll just see, what do the SGs say about all of this? Is this correct? So I will do that and we will post that tomorrow. Okay? All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.